Yeah, because I've
There
this
we go.
meeting is being recorded by the host or the participant. Oh,
There we go.
yeah.
Okay.
Got it.
So I'm recording it now, and then I think it will send me like a file later that I'll be able to send to
Clean
you.
it up.
Yeah.
All right. So you tell me when we start.
Yeah, we're ready to go right now.
Yeah, no, I can't see myself anymore.
Oh no.
I don't need to see myself because I see you up in the corner.
Okay, good.
So that's all I need. I think Farfar's listening outside the door.
Oh my gosh, she's so
I told her she couldn't be here because it made me nervous.
oh Farfar, I love you guys. Okay,
I
so
love
yeah,
you too.
maybe this is so fun. I'm really glad we could do this.
Yeah, it's great.
Okay, so maybe we can start off with kind of what drew you to America, how old you were, when that kind of started to become an idea of why you were interested in coming here. So like the
Okay.
start.
Okay. I have to go way back. 1953 is when I came to this country, but I had plans before that um, to immigrate to America. That's what I wanted to do, and I had relatives in Chicago that were willing to, take me in when I first got here. But I contacted my uncle back in mid 1953, and the Korean War was going full blast. And he said, if you come here, you'll go straight to Korea and you might be dead. So I said, I'm not going. But I told him, I said, as soon as this is over, can I come? And he said, yeah, we'll talk.
Mm-hmm.
So the war was over. The way I remember it was that the Korean War was over. We can look that up. By mid 53, probably July, something like that. And as soon as that was over, I was on the phone calling my uncle. And I said, I'm coming. So he had to sign some papers and things. And back in those days, we actually had a quota. Each country back in those days, the U.S. said we'll take so many per country. And at this point, the quota for Sweden was, usually it was an annual quota, which meant you can only have so many from Sweden coming to the U.S. at that time. And since it was almost, the end of the year, I was concerned because they said they might just turn me away, but it was fine, no problem. I got my papers. I signed a declaration stating that I wanted to become a citizen as soon as I could, and that was it.
Yeah.
So I got on the ship. That was the MS Kungsholm. It's a Swedish American line that no longer exists, but it was a nice, beautiful ship, and I left Gothenburg. I think it was November something, just before Thanksgiving. In 1953, and then we arrived in New York December 3rd, 1953. That was when I got off the gangplank in New York. And I must tell one thing before that. I was 17 years old, had never been anywhere. And here I am on the ship looking at the Statue of Liberty. And I said, I can't believe it.
Wow.
I'm in America.
Yeah.
So I get very emotional when I think of that. No,
Yeah.
No.
Well, it's totally okay to. I mean,
That's fine.
I can't even imagine myself now. I'm 21?
You're
And
an old lady.
I'm an old lady. And I could never do something like that. So it definitely is a very courageous thing. I think we can back up a little too. So in the start, you were saying you were really wanting to go to America, and you were in connection with your relatives who were in Chicago.
Right.
what were some of the like? Were there specific reasons on why you wanted to come to America, or was it kind of just what people were doing, or what were like the pull factors?
Well, the reason was I wanted to leave Sweden. I wanted to get out. I was a young Viking, and I needed to, get out of and I was working in a small town, and there was not much happening, so I needed something. And the first thing I was gonna do is just to get going is to join the Swedish Merchant Marine
Hmm.
to get out and see the world. And I told my parents, and since I was only 17, I couldn't do any of these things on my own because I wasn't old enough.
Yeah.
So they told me, no, there's no way you're going to join the Merchant Marine. But my dad said, I will call your uncle in Chicago to see if he will, vouch for you, because they
Mhm.
had to sign papers and stuff. And we did, and that's how I made the trip.
Wow, very cool. And you said too, you got on the big ship at 17. Were you all by yourself? Was it just you, or did you know anyone, I mean, with you going along, or?
All by myself. Actually, I had my parents came down to Gothenburg. Came on the train and got on the ship. I even remember my my mother and my dad. They were allowed to come on board ship before we sailed,
Mhm.
so they got in to see my cabin. I was in a cabin with three other guys, big old salty Swedes that had been going back and forth several times,
Yeah.
to America. And they were telling me stories, but my mother took him aside and said, now you have to watch out for my son. He said, he's 17. He's never been anywhere. He says, you better take care of him. So they said, okay, we'll do that. And they pretty much did that. But there's some
Good.
other stories that I won't tell you today.
Oh my gosh. So they said goodbye and you were off. And what
Yeah,
was what was like going through your mind at this point? Were you excited, nervous, or like finally you're going for it? Was that kind of the ideas you were having, or?
it was just a crazy feeling because,
Mhm.
like I said, I'd never been anywhere.
Yeah.
So, first of all, being on board ship, I remember I could not settle down because it's a big ship, and I was up and down the corridors, up and elevators and stuff because to me that was like discovery. I got to find
Yeah.
out what's going on.
Oh my gosh. And so you said I think from November to December you were on the ship.
Yeah, 9 days,
Okay, 9 days it was just?
9 days, yeah, on board ship, and
Nice.
we get into to New York Harbor, and we got there a day early.
Mhm.
And when that happens with these ships, they don't want to dock because they pay a docking fee.
Mhm.
So they had to just park right on the Hudson, just so I could see the Statue of Liberty to my right. So there we spent the whole night looking at the lights and seeing the cars and the the lights of the cars and stuff. It was just unbelievable.
Wow. And so were a lot of people on the ship in your same situation coming to immigrate to America? Or I know, like you said, there were guys who've done this trip many times.
It was both. There was, the ones that I met that first time was by the old guys, but then I found several. There was, I don't know, I can't remember how many, but there were many. They were coming. They were my age. I was probably one of the younger ones, but there were some that were like in their 20s, and
Mhm.
they had someone had been here and had been there and come back. So it was both.
Okay, cool. And were they all like from Sweden or all over as well?
I would say, as far as I know, they were all from Sweden.
Yeah. Wow, really cool. And so that was around, you said 1953.
53.
Oh my gosh, crazy. So you made it to New York finally. The ship eventually docked, and obviously it sounds like it was very emotional and
Oh yeah.
exciting, I'm sure. So after that, you get off the ship, and was there like what was after that? Was there a process that you had to go through with all the paperwork and stuff that you said, or was it kind of on your own from there?
Oh, yeah. One thing that stands out when I get off the ship, you go through customs and immigration. And that was this really tough guy at the immigration. And he got me aside and he told me, he said, how old are you? I said, I'm 17. He says, do you realize, he says, that as soon as within about a year, you're going to be in Korea, because they were still drafting young men going, to be
Mm-hmm.
part of, the cleanup of the Korean War. And he said, are you ready for that? And I said, yeah, I'm ready. I'll do that. So that was it. And then I had my dad had found a guy in New York that he knew, that he had called him and said, my son is coming. Can you sort of get him on the right train from things in New York to get to Chicago?
Yeah.
So this guy met me at the gangplank, and he took me around in New York the first day, and then he put me on the train the next day.
Wow. And so you were here, or your dad, he came to America before. Is
He
that
was here in 1948. Yeah.
1948? And so was he in America when you got to America in New York?
Say that again.
Was he in America when
No,
you arrived?
no. My dad was here in 1948 for 3 months traveling. He had always wanted to go to
Mhm.
America, and because of the Second World War, nobody traveled. So as soon as that was over in 1948, he got to come for 3 months. And I think that's what got me started on wanting to travel to America, because he talked about it, and he had photographs and slides and stuff. And I knew that he planted the seeds with me, not realizing that as soon as, this was time, I was ready to go.
Yeah. Okay. So then he had a connection for you, took a train and you went to Chicago to meet up with your uncle?
Uncle, I had an aunt and an uncle, both had families.
Mhm.
And it was really funny because we're getting off at the train station, and I'm looking down, and I never know, I've seen these people in my life. This,
Mhm.
I'm in a strange country, strange people, and somehow they recognized me coming
Yeah.
off that train. So here there were 4 cousins. They were all girls, and they were all my age. A couple of them was a year or two older. But they all came running and grabbed me and just hugged me and said, and they call me Bob. It says Bob, because they didn't understand Bo that didn't make sense.
It was
So they call
wild.
me Bob. Bob is here from Sweden.
Oh my gosh. Wow. And so um that was obviously probably pretty cool meeting some relatives that you hadn't seen before.
Yes,
Um and being Bob from Sweden.
Bob from Sweden. Yeah.
So did you know a lot of English coming from Sweden?
No, all I
No.
had was with my basics in high school, and that was very limited. So I did not speak English.
Yeah.
And I could put words together, but I did not speak the language. So that was an obstacle in the beginning, no question.
Yeah.
Being 17, um, I had an in, because I was young enough to get right in. And then after about a year and a half, I joined the army and went in the army, and that was a big turnaround for me as far as the language, because I was forced to be part of the country.
Yeah. So, did you live with your aunt and uncle and cousins once you got here?
Yeah, the only thing was both my uncle and my aunt had families. They both came from Sweden, so
Mm.
they spoke the language. So they wanted to speak Swedish, and I said no, no. I said, I'm here in America. I want to speak English.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Okay. So that was still pretty early, and you said, what were some, I guess, what were some of like the you said language was one of the first obstacles that you kind of faced coming
Mm.
here. What were some other things? Were there any like cultural shocks that you really had to get used to coming to America or?
I'm sure there were, but now I'm trying to think. Uh, well, the food was a big introduction to me because, I
Yeah.
got introduced to pizza and all kinds of different, foods in this country that I'd
Mhm.
never seen or heard of before.
Yeah.
It's a whole new world.
Yeah. And it's totally okay if you don't remember. This is a lot of stuff too from a long time ago. So, um,
Yeah.
but what else? So I think you said then after 1 to 2 years of staying in Chicago, did you decide to enlist in the military or
Yeah.
so you decided to do that? Was there reasoning behind that or?
Yeah, the thing was that since I had been told and I knew that being, turning 18 the next year, I was I had to go and sign up for the draft. We had a draft in those days. So when you
Mhm.
were 18, you signed up and they can grab you anytime they wanted. So when I turned 18, I kept waiting, because I figured they're going to call me anytime, but I
Yeah.
never heard from them. So I got a buddy of mine and we said, let's forget this. He said, let's join the army instead of wait for them. So we did. We went down on January 28th, 1955. Uh, I signed up to go in the army.
Wow. And so, sorry, backing up again, we can talk more about this in a second, but back to kind of like the immigration process. I know you talked about a few papers and going through customs and stuff. Um, was that kind of all there was, or was there a lot more of a process with that?
You mean as far as, well, I had to sign a declaration of intent
Mm-hmm.
to become a citizen. In other words, I signed that saying, I'm swearing right now that I want to become a citizen as soon as you will have me.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that once I joined the army, within 6 months, I was actually entitled to become a citizen, but I had to go for the the whole process.
Yeah.
But I joined the army in January 55, and in December of 1955, I became a U.S. citizen. And
And so,
guess where I
okay.
became a citizen?
What?
I became a U.S. citizen in Frankfurt, Germany, because I
What?
was I was stationed in Germany.
Oh my gosh. Wait, so we're so becoming like being enlisted in the military helped you gain your citizenship?
Well, actually, the back in those days, because I was still under the Korean uh, War process, so
Mhm.
the rules were back in those days that as soon as you joined and you had 6 months in the service, you could apply for it, and it was almost an automatic thing. I had to go and raise my hand and go through the process, but it was
Yeah.
almost automatic.
Wow.
But
And
it's so
so
funny that to this day I have issues with that because every time anybody wants to know when I became a citizen, I tell them I became a citizen in Frankfurt, Germany, and they always say, "We don't want to know when you became a German. We want to find out when you became an American citizen." I said, "It says right on my citizenship paper, I became a citizen in Germany."
wow. And so maybe back to your decision to go enroll in the military. Was the citizenship aspect of that like maybe one of the drawing factors of you enlisting, or you just kind of knew already that you were probably gonna be in the military anyway? So I don't know if that
Yeah,
makes
also being 18 years old now, and I had no commitments as far as being anywhere, and
yeah.
I wanted still to see the world, and I didn't realize that I was going to go right back to Europe. But I had a I had a choice, and they were still shipping a lot of guys to Korea,
Yeah.
and there were some bad duties. I mean, they had to really work out in the fields, and it's not very pleasant. So
Hmm.
when when I got to the enlistment guy and they asked me what kind of branch of service do you want? And I said, what's the easiest?
Farfar.
And the recruiting guy said, well, I've got the opening for medics. I said, that sounds great. Said, all you have to do is give shots.
Oh my gosh. So are you comfortable talking more about your time in the military, or is that
Oh,
something
yeah,
that's
no problem. No
okay?
problem.
So yeah, maybe we can go a little more into that. So you said you enlisted with your friend when you were 18 because you didn't really want to wait anymore for them to just draft you.
Right.
And so you got then stationed, you said in Germany,
In Germany, yeah.
as a medic.
Yeah, I was a medic. I got medical training, and it was good training because we still had to go through all of the things that the military puts you through.
Mm-hmm.
8 weeks of basic and shooting and all that stuff. But once that was over, I got medical training. I wasn't a doctor, but I was technically a medical aid, or when you think of field hospitals in the war, I would be one of the medics in that field hospital.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, wow. So how was this like scary for you, or was it kind of exciting? Like now you're getting to travel the world more and you're learning all this medical stuff. Was it more fun or kind of scary that you're
Well, it was very interesting. I was something I never, experienced before, and I think I really enjoyed it, and it was good training.
Mhm.
I have some of the basics of the medical treatments, but this is under war conditions.
Mhm. Yeah. So were there any like tough times during your like experience, or was it all kind of just straightforward medical duties, I guess?
Well, it was primarily at that time we were being trained as medical, personnel.
Yeah.
But I was stationed for about 6 months. I was stationed in Frankfurt, Germany, in a big general hospital, and that was very interesting because then I actually got to work and I was working since I was a cleric. They call me medical
Mhm.
clerical. So I had to do admitting in the hospital.
Oh wow.
So I had to actually work, in the hospital, admitting patients and go through all that process.
Oh
I
my
never,
god.
I never forget I was working there one night all by myself and admitting.
Mhm.
In comes this ambulance with this woman that's ready to have a baby. And I had to get all the information from her and her husband. And then I was so excited. I wanted to help her into the elevator and get her out of there. And once I did that, the rest of the people said, okay, that's enough now. You've done enough. We'll take over.
Oh my gosh. But I'm sure you learned so much, and that's such an exciting field, I'm sure, to be in, like learning all the medical training and like you said, like helping someone at least a little bit deliver a baby or at least get them into the elevator.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then so after Germany, did you get stationed anywhere else or?
No, I was pretty much in central Bavaria in Germany.
Mhm.
I was between Würzburg or Frankfurt and Nuremberg.
Mhm.
So I did a lot of traveling in Germany. I didn't see much of Europe except every year I had 30-day leave. I went to Sweden of all places.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And so how long in total did you serve in the military?
I was in the 3 years.
3 years. So
Yeah,
and all that time you were in Germany and
yeah.
back.
Except for the training, which was in Kansas. I was there for Fort Riley, Kansas, for about 6 months, and then the rest was all in Germany.
Wow. Um, Very cool, Farfar. Thank you for your service.
Okay.
And then so after you served, you went back to America and just wanted to continue living there and do your thing, and you were
That
all
was
done?
that was it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got on back in those days. that they shipped us on troop ships, which is like thousands of military men on a ship.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that was a tough experience because when I first came in 1953, I was on a nice ocean liner that had all the services and the food and everything else. Now
Yeah.
I was on the troop ship, which was not as exciting.
No,
And
probably not.
yeah, and I did that both coming and going.
Yeah, wow. And so did you come back to Chicago?
Yeah, eventually I got back to Chicago and uh, I had a little flunky job, and I got that back because the rule was that once you went in the service and came back, they were obligated to take you back. They couldn't just say, we don't have a job for you.
Yeah.
But they couldn't give you the same job you had before. They couldn't promise that. So they gave me a job in a very industrial place in Chicago that was very, I would say, difficult job because it was, oops, I heard something.
Yeah, sorry. I think a car just drove by. We're good.
So that was not the greatest, but I survived.
Yeah. And so you were in Chicago living and working. When did you, so I think you moved to Los Angeles. Is that what your next step was?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I spent 8 years, I think, but total between Chicago, and then one day it was below zero and it was like 4 feet of snow
Oh my
in
God.
Chicago, and it was in January of 1962. I decided, why did I come to America to experience the extreme winter that I had seen in Sweden all my life? I said, I don't really want this. I want something better.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided I'm going to move to California.
Yeah.
So you know what I did? I went to the bank, whatever little cash I had in the bank, I got that out, and I took all my belongings, put them in my little sports car. I had a TR3 Triumph, brand new. Put all my belongings in the trunk, and I had to dig the car from the curb to get it out and to leave Chicago.
Oh my gosh. And so did you drove all the way from Chicago?
Drove to Chicago, from Chicago to California. And I never forget, since I was leaving the cold in Chicago, as I was driving south, it was getting warmer and warmer. It was still, spring.
Yeah.
And I remember one time I got into the desert out in Arizona, someplace, and it was so sunny and warm. I lay down on the sand and just enjoyed the sunshine. And I said, this is what I want.
This is what you came for America for.
Yeah, that's where I came from.
The sunshine. Oh, I love that. And so do you want to tell me about how you met Farmore?
Oh, fine. Yeah, that's a whole different ballgame. No, you can't hear. Okay. Now,
What is silly Farmore doing?
was she wanted me to tell you about my job in Chicago.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and like I told you, I worked in the industry and the big factories and stuff, and that was hard and heavy and dirty work.
Mm-hmm.
So one day I decided I got to find something better. So I answered an ad for somebody that needed a private chauffeur butler.
Mm.
And it was an ad, and I answered the ad, and I got this nice lady, and she asked me who I was and where I came from, and she said, "Oh, Sweden." She said, I used to have a guy from Denmark that was my chauffeur and butler. He said, and he retired. So could you come for an interview? So I came for an interview, and I got hired. So now I got a job as a private chauffeur in Chicago. I have never done chauffeuring. I have never been a butler. I had to learn how to wait on tables
Wow.
and drive. I had to drive. These were wealthy people and lived right on Lakeshore Drive in Chicago, which is overlooking the lake. I
Mhm.
had a bachelor apartment that came with a job,
Wow.
and that was quite an experience.
And I'm sure a lot better than what you were doing
Oh,
before.
much better, much better.
Yeah. Wow. That is really cool. I love is Farmore just listening outside the
Oh
door?
yeah, she's gonna put her 2 cents in.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So you did spend, or what was the year that you finished with the military?
I got out of service in January 1958.
Okay, nice. And then so you were in Chicago from
From
1958.
1958 until I came, I left Chicago 1962.
Wow. And then you drove with all your belongings and
Drove
your
to LA and got a job and started a whole new career in retail, which I had never thought about in my life.
yeah.
And I worked in retail for 30 years.
Wow. And eventually Macy is in Santa Barbara.
Yeah.
So you were in Los Angeles for a little while. That's where you met Farmore, right?
Yeah, we met in LA. Yeah.
Because she came over as an au pair.
She did. Yeah.
hmm And so how did you guys
She
meet?
was 19 and I was like 26 or something, I think, when we met.
Yeah. How did you meet? Just crossed paths or?
Actually, I had a cousin, second cousin,
Mm,
that worked in LA, and we had been reconnected. I remember when she was a little girl, and we met there, and I had a nice little bachelor apartment in LA, in Hollywood, 2 blocks from Hollywood Boulevard. And it was a lot of fun, and we had a lot of parties and things. And one day she says, you know what? She says, I've got a girl for you. She says, there's a girl that wants to come to America as an au pair to take my job, she said.
mhm.
So I want you to meet her. I said, okay. So as soon as she got off the plane and got situated, my cousin brought her over to my place, and the rest is history.
Oh my gosh. I love it. Wow. That's that's pretty incredible, I think.
Yeah.
Um, oh my gosh. I think I kind of went through a lot of my questions, but maybe we can talk more. I think one of the things in my class that we focused on a lot were some of like the challenges and struggles of um, being someone who immigrated to America. So I know you said like the immigration process wasn't too hard. You had to do some of the papers, and because you were in the military, you were able to become a citizen.
Right.
But were there any like specific challenges you faced? Maybe being like feeling like an outsider, or maybe I know we talked a lot in my class about like housing struggles or things like that.
Well, one thing that stands out is, again, the language,
Oh,
because I was still, but this is before I went into service. I had a job. I got a job in a restaurant
hmm
as a dishwasher, and I really, enjoyed the job. The manager of the restaurant said I was the best dishwasher she's ever had.
there you
And it was an
go.
automatic dishwasher in the restaurant. I don't know if you've ever seen them, but they're very interesting.
Yeah.
And I've made a perfection out of it. And I was really doing a good job. And one day, this woman that managed the place came in and she said, okay, now, Bo, now you've done enough in the back room. He said, we're going to put you out and wait on tables. I said, I can't do that. I said, I don't speak the language. She said, you're going to learn.
Wow.
So, so they stuck me out there, and I didn't know the menu. I didn't know the food. One thing that really stands out to me is And this was a lot close to high school, and a lot of the kids after high school came in to buy hamburgers and whatever, you know.
Hmm.
So one day, a bunch of kids came in, and they wanted chili. And first of all, I didn't really know what chili was, but I said, I think we have some in the back room. So they said, is it hot? And I said, yeah, it's warm. I just, you know, they want to know if it was chili, was hot chili or normal chili.
It's warm.
Yeah, it's warm. We'll warm it up for you.
Oh my gosh. I love that. And I'm sure that helped you learn a lot
Oh
of
yeah.
English too.
You learn fast when you're especially faced with teenagers the same age as you,
Yeah.
and you don't speak the language.
Hmm.
They're going to teach you real fast.
Yeah. Wow. Really cool. Um, I think too, I know you said you struggled with the language sometimes. Do you think did they ever like kind of discriminate against you because of that? Maybe seeing you as a foreigner in America?
Not really, because I, especially landing in Chicago, which is the melting pot.
Yeah.
There are, you know, back in those days, they're still probably that way, is they had, I wouldn't call them ghetto, but there are people that come from Sweden. They stay in the north side of Chicago. You have Italians living maybe on the near north side. There was a lot of Polish people.
Hmm.
So everybody had been exposed to all these different nationalities coming to the city.
Yeah.
It was not that unusual.
Wow. So were you kind of in the Swedish neighborhood section of Chicago, or?
Not to start with, but I used to go there to hang out because there were still a lot of Swedes, a lot of people speaking the language.
Yeah.
I remember it was Clark Street in Chicago on the near north side. You could walk down the street back in the 50s and hear the people talking Swedish.
Wow. And so I'm sure that was kind of nice to have a place like home almost in
Yeah,
America.
yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah. But I think that's really interesting to hear about, that everyone was kind of in the same boat, like
Yeah,
immigrating from
they
their
all
home.
came from all different parts of the world.
Yeah. Wow, really cool. And did any of that, I know like, so in Chicago that was really common because a lot of people came to the city for like after immigrating.
Right.
Was LA any different, or when you moved to California, was that a different experience, or by then were you kind of older and
Yeah,
already
I was older, and you know, by that time I was pretty much, I felt like an American. It only took me a couple of years to feel at home. And a
yeah,
lot of people have asked me, it says, why did you stay? Why didn't you go back? And
yeah,
how long did it take you to make that decision?
hmm,
And I said, as soon as I got off that ship, I knew I was going to live in this country for the rest of my life.
yeah, wow. So you just, because you felt at home, because you felt comfortable, or it was
I just
exciting?
felt that there was something so different and so special that I you know, I had never experienced before,
Yeah,
and it was something that I could relate to.
yeah. Oh, that is so cool. Um, and so let's see. I'm looking through some of my
Yeah, look at your notes.
other questions. Hmm, I don't know. I think honestly we covered a lot of it. Immigration. Yeah,
Am
you
I
were.
allowed to drink? Am I allowed to drink beer?
Yes, of course, Farfar. Wow. Um, yeah, I think honestly my last one was the why did you kind of decide to stay here overall? And you
Yeah.
answered that it was just different, and You felt it
Yeah,
really.
there was never a question in my mind about going back.
Yeah.
And I remember my parents, when I first went and came to this country,
Mhm.
they were hoping that I would come back because I never did say I'm going permanently.
Yeah.
So they would ask me, you know, through the years in the beginning, it says, so when are you coming back home? And my wife had the same experience
Yeah.
that, you know, when are you coming back? And I said, I'm not coming back. I might come back to visit, but this is my country.
Yeah. So, when you guys were communicating, it was just letters via mail that you sent each other? You like sent letters home?
Yeah, that was it because you know you couldn't afford telephone in
Yeah.
those days. Long distance across from to Europe was very expensive. So
Mhm.
you maybe did that once a year or something, just on the birthday or something. That was it.
Yeah. And I know you said you visited a little bit when you had time during your service when you were in Europe. Did you ever go back after that to visit Sweden?
Oh yeah, several times.
Yeah. Just to go home for a little while.
Yeah, to visit. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know if I talked about, so I know you have a few siblings or your sisters.
Uh-huh.
Did they all stayed in Sweden forever? Kind of?
Everybody stayed. Yeah, I'm the only one that escaped.
Wow. And what do you think, like why do you think that was the case for them? Did they just not have that same drive for?
For some reason, they never they liked to travel and they came to visit several times, but they never had that feeling that they needed to get reestablished in a different country. I don't know. It's
Yeah.
interesting.
Um
Oh,
oh,
what? What do you want now? Yeah, but how am I going to put that in there? Yeah. That's a good point.
what is she saying?
Well, what she's saying is that, you know, part of it was because when I left Sweden, I dropped out of high school, the
Hmm.
last year and a half of high school. So I really did not have a good formal education.
Hmm.
So when I came here and I realized that back in those days in the 50s, you could still get a job and get promoted and get someplace without a formal education,
Yeah.
which is probably not the case today.
Hmm.
But also, both of my sisters had a good education in Sweden. They stick with the schools, and they were both actually teachers. So once you get established in a country, in your own home country, as an educator,
Hmm.
you don't have any desire to go to another country.
Yeah. Yeah. So they already kind of had it set up, but you were the explorer of the family.
I was a Viking.
The Viking. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love it. Um, what else? I don't
Can I
know.
tell can I tell you one experience that may not fit into this, but just
Oh,
that
yes.
stands out because of what's going on in Europe and all of
Yeah.
these things. I happened to be in Germany, stationed on the border to Czechoslovakia in 1956, I think. 50, yeah, 56.
Mhm.
That's when the Hungarian Revolution and Hungarian uh, took place.
Mhm.
And that was a major thing. And it was part of the Cold War. It almost became a third world war. It didn't. But we were on the maneuver and we were called to the border and we were sitting there waiting to go in and fight whoever it was. I guess it was the Russians or somebody. And we never got the call, but we were sitting right on the border. And that to me was, you know, sort of an emotional experience because we could have been in the middle of the war.
Yeah, wow. And so you said that was on the border of,
Of Czechoslovakia and
wow.
Hungary, yeah.
And so you were there kind of preparing yourself to go like into battle.
Yeah, we were, we were on maneuvers, and once you were going to maneuver, you live out in the bush, and you have all the gear that you need. You're ready to go to war.
Wow. And
Yeah.
so were you kind of thankful that it didn't really end up?
Yes, I was very thankful it didn't happen.
Yeah, wow.
And the thing is, it's sort of sad in a way, because I could think back of this and, what could have happened then. And then I get back here and I get discharged, and I got out in 58. And then I get my actual official discharge from the Army in 1962, because you were inactive for so many years.
Yeah.
So in 1962, I got my final document saying you are not part of the U.S. Army anymore. Guess what?
Hmm.
The Vietnam War started about mid-60s, 66, I think, or something.
Yeah.
I would have been right back in the Army and in Vietnam.
Wow.
But because I had served and I had my discharge, they weren't going to call me. They were calling all these other young guys, which, I almost feel guilty, because, I was trained as a U.S. Army medic.
Mm-hmm.
But, luckily I didn't have to go to war.
Yeah. Wow. But I'm sure you definitely shouldn't feel guilty, because you did spend many years.
Well, I did whatever my country asked for me,
But I'm sure you were kind of relieved that you had already
Oh, yes.
been doing
Oh,
that. Yeah. Oh, wow, Farfar. That's pretty cool. I'm really enjoying just even learning about
You're learning all the stuff about your old Farfar, huh?
and I love it. I'm really glad we got to do this.
Yeah.
I think I think that's kind of all my questions that I've had. I'm gonna kind of compile a lot of this stuff into an essay, and
Okay.
for my class, the essay is mostly just supposed to talk about like connecting this to some of the topics and themes that we've learned about in my class.
Oh, okay.
But in general, though, I think too, I'm glad I got to do this just to learn about my family history and my Farfar. So
That's right.
yeah,
That,
very cool.
okay, sounds good.
Yeah, I think if is there anything you think that you want to maybe add, or parts of this? I know, of course, there's probably so many good stories, and I'm sure we can.
Oh, I got all kinds of stories, but some of them don't belong here. There's one.
Hi, Sarah. I just have to say that to get into this country in those days, you had to have all these your medical history. You had to have all these shots. You had to carry the picture of your lungs, all those things that, now people just walk across the border, which is not right.
Far more.
Now they got political.
Well, no, we had.
I know that.
Legal, but you didn't mention that, so I thought I would.
Oh my gosh. So, yeah, was it like you had to have a lot of documentation and stuff too?
Now, the one big thing was the chest X-ray. We had to carry our chest X-ray, whatever those things are, the black and white or whatever, because they were so concerned about what do you call it? TB, tuberculosis.
Oh yeah, wow.
So this country was really concerned about people coming from other countries. So you had to prove that you were in A1 shape.
Wow. So you carried your X-ray pretty much from Sweden all the way on the ship.
I carried it on the ship with me, and so did my wife.
Okay, I think maybe since we're wrapping up.
He asked you about the culture in this country, and the culture in this country that you came for was music.
Oh yeah, that's I can talk about this forever.
I know you could, but you should just mention that so she knows.
Yeah, well, I'll bring that in because it's not going to mean anything to you, but one of the things back in mid-50s in
Mhm.
Europe, there was a big influx of American jazz musicians, good American jazz. It was the Dixieland, modern jazz, all these different things. I got exposed to that somewhere around when I was in my mid-teens, and I really enjoyed that kind of music. So when I first came to this country, I was searching for that. I was searching to find where the music was. And it was funny because I got here probably just before the rock and roll thing got
Okay.
started. And to me, rock and roll was not the music that I expected from this country.
Mhm.
So I wanted jazz. And I remember looking for jazz clubs. There were all kinds of them in Chicago. I
Mhm.
remember one specific thing was that I really liked Charlie Parker. He was the tenor saxophonist. And I wanted to hear him live. And this is 55, probably 54, 55. He actually died in the late of 55, I think. So I found out that there was a concert on the north side of Chicago where he was going to be. And I had no car back in those days. I was riding streetcars and buses. So I found out exactly where this thing was going to be held in the concert hall. And I found out that I had to take 3 buses to go up and down to come from where I lived in Cicero to the north side of Chicago to get to this concert. And I got to hear Charlie Parker. And to this day, when I talk to other people that's in this country that knows jazz and knows music, and I'm so proud to say I actually heard Charlie Parker before he was gone.
Wow. And I think that kind of is a nice like tell to, I don't know if it's the American dream, but you came for this music and
Yeah.
you got to see this in person
Yeah,
as an American.
as an American.
Wow. Oh, Farfar, I love it. And I think since we're wrapping up, maybe Farmore can come and I can just say hi really quick.
Oh, can you do that? You're
If,
allowed to do that?
yes, I'm allowed to do that. Actually, first, Farfar, I'm gonna take a screenshot. If you wanna, I just wanna take like a selfie of us.
Okay.
You can smile real quick at the camera. Thank you.
I get to see that too?
Yes, I will. I'll send you all of this stuff over.
Okay. They may go get her because she's dying.
Okay,
come in and
sounds
talk to
good.
Hey, Farmore, you're allowed to come in now. Yeah, she wants to say hello to you. I don't know why.
I don't know why.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi,
I
Farmore.
haven't seen you for so long.
There
Is
she
there a
is
picture
right there.
of her?
Hi,
Oh,
Farmore.
it's such a little picture I can barely see it. How are you?
Good.
Was
I'm-
this fun?
This was really cool, and I really liked learning about my Farfar.
Oh, yeah. I'm so glad you did it. It was just so cool when your mom asked and we said, oh, yeah, my gosh, yes.
Yes.
And he has stories galore. And that's one thing that John really likes is to come and just sit and talk all evening long. And I usually go to bed because I've heard these stories 100 times. And he has all these stories and he just tells John, and John loves it. He eats it up.
Oh my gosh. Well, I really enjoyed this, and I can't wait to hear more.
Oh, okay. You think you might be coming up?
Yes, I think so.
Do you think it's going to work out? I mean, when do you start in LA?
I don't know. We're trying to figure out a date still, but probably I was just doing a few. It's like my last week of school this week,
Yeah,
and then next week is our final exam
your
week.
final, yeah. Mm.
And then right after that, I think I'm gonna spend a week at home,
Uh-huh.
and then that like next week I'm hopefully gonna
Okay.
start.
Yeah. And do you have a place to live by now?
Not quite. We're
Oh.
trying. We're talking to a few places, and
Okay.
yeah,
Aren't you nervous about that?
yeah,
No.
but we're trying not to think about that.
Okay, okay, good. Good. And I mean, LA is now such a nice place that, you
Yeah.
know, it wasn't like when we were there. I mean, you could interview us about that too after you've been there.
Oh my gosh.
It was unbelievable. Yeah.
Is Farfar talking to your kitty down there?
Yes, he is. He's talking. He was with me outside the door and he's rolling like, you know, I want to know what you guys are doing
Oh
because
my-
he could hear your voice, which he's not familiar with, you know.
Mhm. Yeah.
So he was wondering what was going on. So funny.
Oh my gosh.
He's cute.
Okay, is Farfar still there?
Yes.
I'm here.
Wait, can I see you?
He
Maybe you guys
wants to
can
see-
scooch
Oh.
in if that's okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say thank you so much, Farfar.
Well, this was fun. I enjoyed it.
This was really cool. I'm gonna get emotional.
Oh, sweetheart. We do too. At least I do.
Well, when you think of it, you're talking to a man that's 86.
Doesn't know.
Well, it
You
was
know, so
yeah.
this is a documentation of my life we got right here.
Very, very short,
Yeah.
compressed.
I know, and hopefully we'll learn lots more. But
Oh, yeah.
this was really cool.
It's great to see you, Sarah, and good luck on all of this. Now, how are you doing this as a presentation or an essay?
I'm gonna write. Sorry, I just got so emotional. I'm.
Oh, sweetheart.
I love you guys.
Oh, I love you too.
I'm gonna write an essay and compile all this and mostly just connect things with Farfar's story to some of the
Yeah.
topics that we learned about
Oh, good.
in my class. One of
Yeah,
the things
What's
that
the name of the class?
it's just history of American
Okay.
cultures.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
okay, great,
So
great.
it was just kind of a broad history from
Yeah. Fun.
yeah, mostly about a lot of it was about immigration and people coming
Yeah.
to the US and
Yeah.
a lot of
And
that.
these are required classes because you still have to have regular required classes, even though you're studying a particular subject, right?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
these are what they call the general education
Yeah,
stuff. And so
I
this
figured that.
is just fulfills one of those requirements. So
Right, great, great. All right, and how are you doing? Are you doing real well or are you struggling?
it's definitely hard,
Yeah.
struggling a little bit for sure.
Mhm.
But I think I'm really excited for my internship
Oh, good.
because I think that will show me like
Yeah,
in the real world what kind of stuff I'll be
Yeah.
doing. So,
is this what I really, really want to do, right?
yeah. So,
That's great.
and I think I told you guys about the scholarship I got from
Yes,
American
Unbelievable.
Scandinavian Foundation.
yes.
I love it.
But thanks to you guys and my Swedish heritage, but it was fun. I got to just say like a little speech and thank you.
Yeah,
And
I
I
would-
mentioned
I
you
would
guys.
love to hear that speech, or do you have it on a piece of paper and you could send it?
Yeah,
something?
I had like a few notes that I was reading
Okay.
from, but sure. And I was gonna say I recorded this too, so I'll be sure to send you guys
Oh, good.
that as well.
All right, sounds great.
But yeah, anyways, I wanted to thank you guys for that because I know you guys have been really supportive of me too with my
Oh, yeah.
education. So
Yeah, well, my gosh,
We're proud of you.
we just love
Oh,
our
thank
two
you.
granddaughters. And I mean, Emma got something too, I understand, but she hasn't told us.
yeah, she
How
got
much?
something from I think it was this foundation. She's gotten money from them before, but
Oh,
she
okay.
got some money again for the next year.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
Yeah. But I guess this is it. I'm so thankful, Farfar, for you to share your story.
Yeah.
I'm very happy to oblige.
Oh, love you so much.
Yeah, we love you too, and good luck on all of this.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, and hopefully we'll see you soon, right?
Oh, definitely.
Okay, love you,
Bye,
sweetheart.
Sarah Bean.
Bye. Love you guys.
Love you
Bye-bye.
too.
Bye.
I'm gonna go
Thank
cook
you.
dinner now.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.